Cleveland Browns, in my opinion, fumbled the NFL draft, and they did a quarterback a disservice. And that quarterback ain't even Shedeur Sanders. We'll talk about that and more here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
You got that right. It is your team every day. We appreciate you making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On NFL, or whatever team you cover. We appreciate you being here, and we thank you. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of Locked On NFL and Locked On Jaguars. And on Mondays, the host of Locked On Panthers, Julian Council, is here. He's riding shotgun here with your boy. We're going to get into it today and talk about the National Football League. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or listen. We will be there. And this is what we're going to talk about today on today's show. Washington did okay. I put that there because I ran out of room and I had to say they did something. So it's just okay. But we'll talk about that and some additions that they made where they got a lot of production last year out of young guys. Maybe they can do it again. David Harrison will tell you why. Lions and Chargers add the right pieces. Everything you thought they needed, they went out and got it. And you can't complain about it. We'll hear from the hosts of those particular shows. But we're going to start up top. We'll mention some other people too, maybe the Eagles, worst to first, right? We're going to start at the top of the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns were sitting in the catbird seat. The Cleveland Browns had the number 2 pick, and they were dangling Myles Garrett out there. We were sitting there thinking, like, how many first-round picks? They're going to be like the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? Trading Paul George. They're going to get all of these draft picks, and then they're going to end up with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and a whole bunch of other players because we assumed that because those picks were going to be very, very high, Julian, that those things were going to work out. That didn't happen. They had one of the worst drafts. They took 2 quarterbacks and 2 running backs in a draft where you just don't do that kind of stuff. And what's going on with Cleveland? They did Dylan Gabriel dirty, and we're going to get to that in a minute. But tell me what you thought of Cleveland's draft.
Well, it was certainly interesting, the fact that they decided we're going to trade out of the number 2 overall pick back to 5, and that they end up with Mason Graham instead of ending up with Travis Hunter, who could have impacted both sides of the ball. Now, it's to remain to be seen what's going to happen with him in Jacksonville and whether he plays full-time both sides. Either way, the intrigue is going to be down there in Duval. People aren't going to be intrigued in Cleveland because they have, you talk about the draft 2 quarterbacks. I mean, they already had Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Deshaun Watson still there. It's like, what on earth is this like quarterback room? And do they even have one? Like, you have 5, but is there one of them that's even playable to the point where they can be back in playoff contention this upcoming season in 2025? It was odd. And like everything about the Browns recently has been odd. Like the decision to give Deshaun Watson all of that money, just like the ownership coming out and saying, well, yeah, we messed up. Myles Garrett wanting out and talking, really throwing shade at the GM, saying it was never about going from Cleveland to Canton. I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. All of it just has been this gross going on in Cleveland, honestly.
Well, one of the good things, Cleveland, other than Myles Garrett, one of the good things over the last 7-8 years that they've had is Nick Chubb, but it looks like his time is coming to an end because they took 2 running backs. Listen to Spencer German talk about that, and then we'll come back, and I'm going to tell you why they did Dylan Gabriel dirty.
What's up, Browns fans? Day 3 of the NFL draft is off and running, and your Cleveland Browns did make a pick in the 4th round to pick 126, the pick they got as part of the deal to trade back with the Jacksonville Jaguars, selecting Dylan Sampson, running back out of Tennessee. It's an interesting move for a couple reasons. First, they're the first team since 2013 to select 2 running backs in the first 4 rounds of an NFL draft. The Green Bay Packers did that exact same thing in 2013, so it's been a while. And that rare feat also may just hint at the future of Nick Chubb. This seems to suggest that the Browns are sort of turning the page on the Nick Chubb era and setting up this new dynamic duo with Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. We'll see what the future has in store, of course, and Nick Chubb is still out there as a free agent to be signed. Maybe he could come in and be sort of a nice mentor role to both these young guys and still find himself with a place in this running back room. But that's certainly this latest draft pick does sort of feel like it could be the end of a very meaningful era of Cleveland Browns football. and maybe means Nick Chubb is playing elsewhere in 2025. We'll talk about it coming up at a post-NFL draft episode of the Locked On Browns podcast. Stay tuned.
All right, so look, I brought that up because Nick Chubb has been, even though he's been banged up, he's been really, really steady Eddie. He's one of those dudes that you just look up. He quietly went about his business as one of the best players in the league. They wasted all of that time with that. Now they got Quinshon Judkins. They did get Dylan Sampson. But I like both of them. I like both of them now.
Can I say this too? Like, think about the Nick Chubb thing, because like basically his career in Cleveland was ended by a serious knee injury.
Right.
His college career was also impacted by a serious knee injury that was suffered there at Neyland Stadium in Tennessee. And now, present time, they're replacing him with a Tennessee player in Dylan Sampson,
right,
who I think is a better back than Quinshon Judkins, by the way. I thought Sampson, I mean, he was Tennessee's offense last year. I think that guy's outstanding. When the Panthers decided to take Trevor Etienne instead of him, I was like, you got the worst back, like by a considerable margin.
He ain't blocking nobody. No pass protection whatsoever, right?
Yeah, but whatever, man. Don't get the guy who set Tennessee records. And if you know anything about Tennessee football history, like, that's significant for what he was able to do to basically drag that terrible offense to the playoff last year.
I'm going to hit Dylan Gabriel real quick because I promised I would. Tough spot for him to be in. And if you're looking at both of those quarterbacks, and I know some people, you know, when it comes to Dion and the kids, man, they go crazy. And I think too many people go overboard when they're criticizing them, because all in all, you're talking about law-abiding people that are always proclaiming their faith, and they're just having fun as a family. If you don't like it, don't tune in. Just turn your head. But the thing about it is, him sliding to the draft, that kid had a smile on his face the whole time, man. They got bread, they got money, and that might be a concern, by the way, that he's not desperate enough. You know, like Josh Rosen didn't. He thinks about too much other stuff, and you know, these people are gonna find any reason to say why they don't want somebody. But lost in all of this, they gave Deshaun Watson. You mentioned it, so I'm gonna bring it up. They gave Deshaun Watson guaranteed money when he should have been lucky to even still be playing in the league. And they did something unprecedented and gave him $250 million when they didn't even have to do that. They go out and get Kenny Pickett. They fumble around the quarterback position. And now you draft this kid in the 3rd round, and he doesn't even get to enjoy it for one day before the elephant walks in the room. And now Shedeur landed in Cleveland, and guess what he's doing? He's going around the high schools. He's talking to kids. He's throwing balls to any wide receiver that plays ball anywhere that wants to catch. He is ingratiating himself into the fabric and the culture of the city of Cleveland. And you drafted that other kid and going to pay that other kid more money in front of that kid. Doesn't stand a chance in Cleveland. And to me, this is another reason why the Browns are who they are.
Yeah. What's the plan here at quarterback, period? I don't understand. Like I said earlier, like, they have 5, but do they have 1 who they can count on to have them compete against Pittsburgh, who right now doesn't have a quarterback? I'm sure we'll talk about that later. And to compete also with really Cincinnati and with Baltimore. Like, what exactly is going on here? And you bring up Kenny Pickett too. Like, damn, dude, you just won a Super Bowl. You were back home in Philly, and now you're in Cleveland, and it's like, what's my role here? Like, what exactly is the plan for me on this team? And for Dylan Gabriel, for me, I just think, like, he should just be happy he got drafted in the first place, because I don't think he's an NFL quarterback at all. There's nothing about him in the 6 years of him playing at UCF, Oklahoma to Oregon that suggests that he has any sort of, like, traits that you would want out of a quarterback at the next level. So I thought it was wild he got drafted in the 3rd round. It's kind of crazy he got drafted anyway, like, especially when, like, Quinn Ewers, who I don't think, like, highly of, he was a 7th round guy, but Dylan Gabriel's a 3rd round. Why? No. What are we seeing here? Yeah, so it's not a great situation for him, I suppose, but, like, he should be happy he got drafted, because I don't think he's an NFL quarterback. It's just like, I don't understand what the plan is in Cleveland at all at quarterback. And I guess Flacco, like, I don't know.
Flacco old enough to be them kids' daddy. You know that, right?
Yeah. Well, they might be calling him dad. Who knows? Like, Deshaun, I guess he's probably done this year, right? I mean, with the Achilles, and once the ownership comes out and says we made a mistake, you're probably not playing again.
Yeah, you can go ahead and stay home, dog. You can come hang out, but I don't even know if they want him around the building. And the fact is that we just had a 10-minute conversation, and we still don't have one answer. We didn't get any clarity out of anything. It tells you that the way they're moving right now, they don't understand the word clarity. So it's fitting. We're going to talk about the Lions and the Chargers doing small things, but absolutely getting it right and filling a need with real good players. We'll talk about that and more here in just a second on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent is super, super important. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with freelance experts who deliver incredible results. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork, UPWORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. All right, rolling along here on Locked On NFL, Julian Council sitting in the co-pilot seat today, as always, on Monday. Let's get to two teams that did some good things. I'm going to play this clip from a man, Jorgie, out with Locked On Chargers. Everybody said last year, you need to get Justin Herbert some weapons. They got rid of all of their receivers. They got rid of Keenan Allen. They got rid of this guy. Well, they drafted an offensive lineman. They drafted Ladd McConkey. And they won 11 games, and they went to the playoffs, right? So this year, they went and got some weapons. Took a running back, Omarion, your guy, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, big old Hampton in the first round. I think he reminds me so much of Matt Forte. He's going to be a star out there in that offense. And they finally got another wide receiver, man, and they got a big one from the SEC who knows how to get deep. Some people compared him to Brian Thomas Jr. I ain't gonna say all that, but okay. You see me all puffed up. I ain't gonna say all that. But hey, check out my man Drogi, man. No, this is my other brother. This Wade out at Locked On Chargers. He's gonna tell you the significance of this pick.
The Chargers doubled down on offense in round 2 and just found Justin Herbert a new electric wide receiver. This is Daniel Wade here from Locked On Chargers, coming to you after the announcement of the 55th overall selection, wide receiver Trey Harris from Ole Miss, and I love this pick. This is me and David mocked to the Chargers in the second round of our final mock draft because he is a big outside X receiver that can win one-on-one matchups, win down the field, and create explosives for an offense that desperately needed them. This is a great compliment to what the Chargers have in the slot with Ladd McConkey, and this is a guy who just had a 1,000-yard receiving season in the SEC, and he only played in 8 games. He averaged a ridiculous 5.1 yards per route run, leading all of college football, and now the Chargers have some firepower with him and Omarion Hampton. The draft is starting to come together. I would now expect the focus to shift to the defensive side of things with your first 2 picks going offense and maybe an upgrade at left guard for the Chargers. But for all draft coverage and everything on the Chargers, make sure to follow the Locked On Chargers podcast, your team every day.
So they didn't pick up the option on their guard, too. The first round guard out of BC Johnson that they picked a few years ago. That came out just before I was recording. So that means that they are moving, they're moving around. Let me say something about Harbaugh. Harbaugh went to, what was it, San Jose State or wherever that was, or wherever he was coaching out there.
San Diego State, right.
Program,
no, just San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. It wasn't San Diego State, it was San Diego. So the program, he brought him out of the ashes, right? Then he goes to Stanford. Right, think about Stanford in the Pac-10. Right, think about Pete Carroll and USC and Matt Leinart. He ran Pete Carroll to the NFL. He chased him out of there because eventually Stanford started taking their lunch money. Mm-hmm. Then he goes to San Francisco when Carroll is running, just when beast mode starts making stuff shatter. He came and took his lunch money too, almost, and didn't quite get it. Then he goes to Michigan and he does something that he got that national championship and he was able to beat Ohio State to the point where they were starting to talk about they were going to fire Ryan Day, right? The one thing he does, and he does a lot of good stuff, and everybody's not a fan. He's patient. He understands what it's like to come into a situation and you can't fix it all in 1 year. I give him credit. He did it the right way the first year. Now he weaponized the team for his quarterback. Good stuff.
Yeah, and you talk about the guys that they lost too. I mean, Keenan Allen didn't do anything really in Chicago last year. Mike Williams, he was a Jet and then he was a Steeler, and like neither situation was great.
I think he's back with the Chargers now, isn't he? Or something like that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he went back to the Chargers. So I mean, hey, good for him. He's back in LA, I suppose. But like they made the right decisions and they moved on. Like Labiconki was excellent. Like you look at those Georgia teams, it was Ladd and it was Brock Bowers, who were like the top two guys for them when they were going on those back-to-back national championship runs as far as the receiving game goes. And when you now add in Omarion Hampton, who is, I think, a perfect running back for what Jim Harbaugh wants to do, and when you add in Trey Harris, who, I mean, good player. Let's not go overboard as far as when we're looking at Trey Harris. I think he's good. Will be interesting to see what he's able to do in the NFL as like Lane Kiffin schemed him wide open like 90% of the time when he was at Ole Miss the last 2 years. So that will certainly be an adjustment for him as far as his like crisp route running and developing that ability as he gets to LA. But yeah, Jim just focused on building in the trenches and knowing what you can do to win football games. If you can run the ball, you can take care of the football, that can win you games. And now at the end of the day, their quarterback did not take care of the football as Justin threw up all over himself against Houston in that division or in that wild card game. But I still think like Herbert's a good player, and now they're adding more, and they're going to need like Quentin Johnson to finally do some stuff, because that was a guy who at TCU was outstanding in their run to the national title game and just has not really translated to that level so far in his first 2 years in the NFL.
Nah, he hasn't. And then you know what? He'll play well one week, man, and you think, okay, he's getting it. And then all of a sudden he goes right back to being the same guy that he's always been. And you're like, oh, okay, that's the Quentin Johnson that we're used to. But and see, that guy wasn't his draft pick. He wasn't his pick. He's trying to do everything he can to help him out. The more people he gets in there that's going to, do things the way he wants to do it. And I think we're really, really heading in that direction. Sort of like Detroit. If you look at Detroit, last year, everyone focused on Aiden Hutchinson being out. And then they started focusing on the linebackers that were missing. But what people didn't understand, and all of those things, Marcus Davenport was out. They had like, at one point, I think me and you came on the show. It was either me and you or somebody else. We was like, they got 18 people on injured reserve and they still won 14 games. It's unreal, crazy, right? And many of them were starters. They had Aleem McNeil, Levi Onwuzurike. All of these guys are really, really good players, right? And they went out and they weren't able to play because they missed the rest of the season. They go this year and get a 335-pound nose tackle by the name of Tyleik Williams, who I thought was going to be one of the sleepers. In fact, it was him and his teammate, Donovan Jackson. They probably practiced against each other every single day at nose tackle and left guard. So we're going to listen right now to my man, Matt Derrick. I didn't even listen to this clip all the way. I want to see if Matt pulls their gun out and shoots somebody who's just standing there minding their own business, because Matt will do that for you. Check out Matt. This is about the draft pick as it was announced, and he's here with Kevin Ostreicher.
With the 28th pick, the Detroit Lions select Tyleik Williams, defensive lineman, Ohio State, presented by LinkedIn. Here to talk about this with me, it's Matt Derry, the host over at Locked On Lions. Matt, we saw a run on defensive linemen early in this draft. The Lions, towards the back end of the first round, they take Tyleik Williams, who some had in this range, others maybe early to mid-second round pick. How are you feeling about the selection for Detroit?
I mean, I feel okay, Kevin. I mean, this is classic Brad Holmes, really kind of keeping us in the dark on where they were, what they were thinking. He said they were going to take best available player. He said they were not going to just grab an edge rusher because that was a need, or an offensive lineman because that was a need. They were going to stick with best player on their board. There were some very good edge rushers on the board, including Mike Green, the nation's leader in sacks with 17 last year at Marshall, but some off the field issues with him. Kind of kept the Lions away. Jihad Campbell also would have been a great fit. Shoulder surgery kind of kept the Lions away. They take a guy, like you said, that a lot of mock drafts didn't have in the first round, in Tyleik Williams. And, Holmes said at the owners' meetings a couple of weeks ago that they were kind of loaded in terms of interior defensive linemen. Yet they take a big man to pair with Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, Levi Onwuzurike, Josh Paschal. They've got a lot. But if this is the guy that they have graded the highest, that's where they were going, and that's what they did.
All right, he mentioned DJ Reader too. I was going to bring that up, and Matt covered it. That's a very, very good player. The Bengals probably should have never let him go. But the thing is, the Bengals, they doing it again. The thing is though, this sounds like I used to wonder what NBA Youngboy, the artist, or what did NBA stand for? It stands for Never Broke Again. They suffered so bad last year on the defensive line. They say that will not happen again. I don't care how many we have, we're taking it.
Yeah, it's not sexy, but this is how you win football games. Like, it's never a bad thing to have a ton of defensive linemen. Like, offensive line can be different because you're really not taking those guys off the field. Defensively, you're going to be rotating. And if you can keep those dudes fresh for a 17-game, eventually 18-game season, plus the 3 games minimum to end up winning the Super Bowl. That's 21 games, 20 games right now, maybe even 21 if you have to be in the divisional round. But that's a long season, man. And we saw the attrition of it last year for Detroit, where just got bad injury luck. And had they not gotten that, I still feel like that was a team that would have won the Super Bowl last year, but it didn't work out for them. And now, like Lee McNeil, too, somebody who has to come back from that ACL tear, because that happened, I want to say like in November or whatever it was. So he's not.
Yeah, he was the only one they had left for a minute, and then he went down.
Yeah, so he's not going to be ready to go week 1, and this allows him some cover to probably take his time to come back. Maybe if they want to wait until the second half of the season and get Tyleik Williams out there. But it's like, okay, you don't have to be the top guy because there's Reader out there already. So they're in a good spot, I think, just with their defensive line. And I laugh when Matt says classic Brad Holmes. Like Brad Holmes has been like doing this for decades now.
But on Mount Rushmore, right?
Right. But wait, Brad Holmes done a great job building turning around that franchise. And I mean, we never thought that we'd ever have our Thanksgivings be not ruined by the Lions being on there. And look, it's the Cowboys doing it instead. It's incredible.
Yeah. The Lions used to be the team that was so bad, and then they always used to kind of give people hell on Thanksgiving. We was like, that's a bad team that's going to beat somebody and ruin their Thanksgiving. Well, now they got the gun. The Lions are probably the best team you're going to see playing on Thanksgiving for a little bit. All right, Washington was an upstart team last year. Got a lot to be happy about these days. Getting a new stadium, back in an old friendly spot in RFK down in DC. And it was announced this morning in 2027, they got the Super Bowl coming to DC. You know what? We might need to, we'll talk about this, but me and you, we might need to make some kind of DC reunion, the Southeast, man. Go over there, me and you hanging out, And I ain't even know you back then, but guess what? I still know, hey, I kicked a lot of dirt in that city, man. I still know where all the stuff is at. So, maybe we need to head on up there in 2027. We'll talk about them and more in the third final segment on Locked On NFL. My man David Harrison of Locked On Commanders had a good year last year. I mean, when you go from almost worst to almost first, that's a pretty good year. It'll make you spoiled, man, especially if you got a lot of production from young players, not just Jaden Daniels, Sanders still. I mean, Sanders still was great. Eventually, Johnny Newton started to play really, really well for them also. So now David Harrison thinks we might have hit on some more stuff. Let me see if we're going to have to tie David down a little bit, man, because David probably thinks, okay, we did it then, we'll do it again. Check this out.
3 significant contributors that I see right now: Connerly Amos and wide receiver Jalen Lane, who's not going to be like number 2 receiver necessarily, but I think between his rotation as a receiver and also his contributions that we hope to see on special teams, I think that's where you'll get the significant contributor tag from him. Deepest significant contributor coming in the 4th round. I will give a little bit of caveat, a little bit of a hot take. 7th round pick running back, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and be like he's going to be the starter or he's even going to get like Austin Eckler sent to the bench, but I could see a reality where he takes the 3rd running back job coming out of training camp, preseason, whatever it is.
I was shocked they didn't take a running back. Austin Eckler fumbled the ball. I think what they're going to do up there is Deebo Samuel is probably going to get the ball 5-6 times a game as a back, right? To go along with Brian Robinson. But, this is what happens when your team has success in the draft and you get immediate impact. You start to think that thing's normal. You're going to be able to get that all the time.
Yeah, you do. But we'll be curious to see, the second year with Dan Quinn, who I thought he did a really good job in Atlanta, and they just never recovered from blowing that 28-3 lead. Like, they came back the next year and they tried to get it going again, and I think it was like a game where I think they were in Philadelphia, and they just like could not get the ball to Julio Jones in that game. And in the next season, they were playing Philly, I think, to open up the year, and it's just like reliving the same nightmare, which that just kind of ruined them. And it was all downhill from then. And then just they could not finish out games. It just was a disaster. I think the second time around, though, like Dan has really learned a lot from his time there in Dallas, and then the changing the culture up there, hitting on a quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who, I mean, people talk about him. He's changed culture with that city as everyone's like back in love with Washington. And now they're going back to RFK. Like, the vibes, they are immaculate. I'm just very interested to see, like, can they keep up the momentum moving forward? And like, I like some of the pieces that they brought in, but it's really going to come down to the development of their quarterback. And if that defense, which was not that great last year, can take a step forward and be a good bit better this upcoming season.
Yeah, they need to stop the run a little bit. They need to, considering they had two $90 million defensive tackles, that shows you that those linebackers have to understand their gaps, and you got to be able to set the edge. A little note about the Super Bowl. I didn't know this, but David told me that they it's going to have a roof, like a glass roof on top, so the elements won't affect.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Yeah,
okay. You're going DC?
All right, DC, getting a little cover from weather. They don't need it until usually about November-ish when it starts. It's hard to keep. It used to be hard to keep a field nice up there because you get that rain and you get the extreme weather. But no, man, good for Washington, good for the NFL whenever Washington is standing tall.
But
and now,
like one time they're going to do Super Bowl there. Let me say that, because think about like when they had it in Minnesota, like the weather's terrible. No one wants to be outside. They have it in Arizona. They have it in Arizona and Vegas. Everyone's outside having a great time. Like, that's the only thing about, like, I think it's cool if they get it like once, but like, think about the vibes when the Super Bowl is in warm weather cities and people are like actually outside enjoying like the entire week, compared to like, hey, we're freezing our tails off here in New York and barely beating a snowstorm that came the next day. So
a little transparency, and this. I was in DC for a military reunion this year during the Super Bowl. I actually I think y'all did the Monday show for me because I was en route coming back. It snowed the day I came back to Florida. It snowed the day after the Super Bowl. They had a blizzard the day after. So I'm telling you, man, they're rolling the dice here. And I'm going to tell you, that is not the place. Everybody talks about Atlanta and LA. You ain't seen traffic until you've seen the Beltway. And well, maybe Atlanta and LA and Miami. Maybe those are three places that say, well, we've seen traffic. It can get really, really bad. And if it's bad weather and you got an extra 200,000 people in town.
Yeah.
Well,
I heard the Metro goes out the Dulles now. So that's nice.
Yeah, it does.
You can at least get around DC. You can't get around on the MARTA in Atlanta. It takes you nowhere.
So at the very least, the NFL draft in 2027 will be cool because it'll be April. But that Super Bowl that they're talking about bringing there, oh my God, it's going to be too cold to do that. Now, we talk about cold. Let me make a cold prediction. Aaron Rodgers has already told Mike Tomlin he's coming to quarterback that team. There ain't no way on earth the Pittsburgh Steelers are moving like they're moving if they don't already know that he's going to come play for them, right? Or maybe they're just focused on next year and they're going to go in with Mason Rudolph as their quarterback. Listen to my man Chris Carter talk about the quarterback situation.
But again, why this class of 2026 looks like it could be better and more beneficial for the Steelers to take part in is because there's not just one first-round quarterback like we all thought in Cam Ward. There could be 4 to 6 guys like Cam Ward in this draft class, and that's where I think the true value can be. And the Steelers wouldn't have to compete to get the top of the top pick here to get a quarterback, just one that's high enough. We talked about this with Alan Saunders. The Steelers could trade up into the bottom of the top 10 and still get one of their guys.
So it must be Drew Aller. He had his picture there. You ain't getting Arch Manning because I don't think he's coming out.
No.
But the kid that left Tennessee to go to UCLA, I don't know if people want to have anything to do with that or not. I can't even pronounce his last name without butchering it.
Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah, Nico, him. I'm just saying, Drew Aller, Nussmeier at LSU. I think people are looking around this year's class and looking at that class. And to be honest, I'm not as excited about it as everyone else.
Yeah, I hate myself for it, but I did peek at a
Oh, no, you
2026.
did not. Come on. I'm going to take these headphones off because I was just sitting there saying yesterday, I saw somebody do a 2026 peek ahead, and I'm like, we just got off that. Are you serious? You can't not. Is that you, Julian? Julian, are you looking at 2026 draft stuff? Are you that sick person that I cursed out in there at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Right. The only reason I did it is because I saw this individual have Arch Manning #1 going to the Saints. I was like, you know what? That would be kind of cool for New Orleans, but I don't think that's going to happen. Matt Miller of ESPN, he's not even looking at Arch Manning as a prospect for 2026. So I appreciate that there's draft people out there like him who already understand, like, the Mannings are not going to operate like the rest of these people. Like, everyone understand when Arch Manning decided that he was going to the University of Texas, there was no big signing day thing. There was no going on FS1 or ESPN. It was a tweet. His only tweet. He tweeted, "I'll be playing football at Texas." When there's all of these rumors, oh, he's going to transfer. He's like, no, like Peyton is going on and saying, no, he wanted to go to Texas to work under Sark. He's happy there. He has 3 years of eligibility at one of the top programs in an outstanding city. Why would you, whenever he leaves Austin, he's probably going to a worse place to live. It's probably going to be cold as hell most of the year. So if you can stay in Austin, play for that kind of a brand, and be the king of campus, why the hell would you leave early, especially when, like, both of your uncles who are going to be Hall of Famers, I know the Eli Manning Hall of Fame thing upsets people, but they're both going to be Hall of Famers. They spent 5 years in college, and I understand now, or 4, they spent the whole full of their eligibility there. It was a different time and all of that, but the Mannings are completely different. So, like, Arch, I don't think he's going to be on the board next year for Pittsburgh. Like, Drew Aller, I'm going to need to see a lot for me to believe in him. I know they got a transfer receiver from Syracuse that should help him, but I'm not a big believer in Drew Aller at all. I mean, maybe Cade Klubnik has a year at Clemson. Like, they're pretty loaded at receiver to where, okay, this could be it for him, where he could actually be that dude. But like Nico, I don't think he's good, honestly. Oklahoma, like John Mateer, maybe like that works out for them. Maybe Jackson Arnold figures things out at Auburn. Like, I'm just trying to go down the list and think, like, what? Carson Beckett, Miami?
Hey, man, that's a Jacksonville native now. This time last year, I thought he was a top 5 pick. I don't know what Carson got. He getting his car stolen and all that crap. I don't know what he got going on down there in South Florida.
I even saw, in the mock draft, the #2 pick was Lenoris Sellers from South Carolina.
Now, wait. Now, I'll buy that a little bit now. I will buy that one, potentially, because I saw that kid last year. I will buy it, Julian.
I live with a Gamecock. Yeah. All, like, a lot of my friends in high school all in South Carolina. So I watch every Gamecock game reluctantly. And saw him in person multiple times. Like, the LSU game, I was there. He was electric until he got hurt. He improved as a passer down the stretch, but he has to improve significantly for me to believe a team's going to take him #2 overall this up next year in the draft. So I love watching Sellers run. I don't know whether he's a passer. He can throw the ball. Can he pass the ball? 2 different things. And Nussmeier, I can buy into that. And it would be interesting too if he does what I think LSU is going to do this year and he balls out, and the Saints are terrible like they're going to be. Guess who the Saints OC is? His daddy. Maybe he drafts a ton.
Yeah. Look at you. Well, we're gonna start some more stuff here. 2027, when me and you are in Washington in Southeast eating chicken wings with mumbo sauce, you know what I'm saying? Or either going down there and get some of that Ethiopian chicken that'll tear my stomach to pieces. But guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna sit there and debate. Who's going first? Is it going to be Arch Manning or DJ Lagway? Because in 2 years, he will be eligible to be in the draft. You don't think?
I'm going to be saying Jeremiah Smith.
Look at that. Now, this is the content. We're going to start. No. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it, Wig. You already talk about 2027 and you just got mad at him for talking about 2026. You can't do that, man. Look at you, man. Let me get out of here before you get me in some more trouble, man. Make sure y'all tap in to Locked On NFL, Locked On Panthers, Locked On Jaguars each and every day. And I know y'all ain't got nothing else to do. You sitting there looking at these rosters, you better tap into Locked On NFL Scout with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino, because they will let you know exactly what is going on around the league with all of these teams and take a deep dive into it, so you know exactly what to do when it comes to lining your fantasy teams up and what to expect from your own club and what y'all need to be. They'll tell you what your team needs to be drafting in 2026, 27, and 28 if you watch the scouting show. So check out Locked On NFL Scouting. For my man Julian Council, who's always looking a year ahead. We will see you later here on Locked On NFL.